everyone, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. What you're going to see now is 100% proof that we had upon our country the biggest cyber attack in history. And I'm going to bring on Mary Fanning to explain how it all happened and show you the 100% proof. Mary, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Mike. Today we've been watching cybersecurity experts, and they've explained some of the things that happened in the election, some of the election fraud. But what we're seeing here is, if you look at this chart, is that there were cybersecurity experts who began collecting information on November 1st. And so this was before, during, and after the election, that they were collecting documentation. In fact, they collected terabytes of information that document the election fraud, the foreign intrusion into our election. This was collected in 2,995 counties in the United States. This was collected in real time. All right, so if you go to the chart, what you will see is the documentation of foreign interference in the election. The first column, if you look at the chart, that shows that on 11/5/2020 at 7:43 and 38 seconds, we had a foreign intrusion, and it shows the IP address, the Internet Protocol address. That is the number of that protocol address of the hacker that entered into our election. The second column is the owner or source of that IP address. That shows that ChinaNet in Beijing province entered the election. It shows an ID. That is the unique address of a computer. That shows the exact computer using that IP source that entered into our election. The next is the target. That's the IP target. That's the Internet Protocol address of the target. All right? Then the next is the target state. In this case, it shows that it's Michigan. Where in Michigan? That's the next column. It shows that it's in Emmett County, Michigan. Then the ID target. That is the unique address of another computer in the United States that the hacker has gone into. And then it shows the method of intrusion. Now, on some cases, you're going to see that they use credentials. That means that they have fake credentials because there were administrators that had been placed on the Secretary of State's computers. False administrators. In other cases, it shows that they broke through the firewall. In some cases, they did both. Now, in the next column, it shows whether it was successful. You'll see a Y. That shows that, yes, it was successful. Now, oftentimes, they're not successful, and they have to go back and try for another intrusion, and then it shows whether that's, in fact, successful as well. Then in the final column, what you're seeing are votes changed. Now, in this particular case, when they went into Emmett County, Michigan, the votes that were changed was they stole 3,477 votes from Donald Trump. That's what you're looking at. Now, as you go through this document and you look at all the multiple intrusions into our election, what you'll notice that over 60% of these intrusions come from China. So that is over 66% is what the number is. Over 66% of the intrusions into our election came from China. Why is this important? Well, some things were set in place, including some of the changes that took place in this country, particularly when we had the Wuhan virus or the COVID-19 virus hit this country. And we have a video. Well, first, Mike, do you have any questions about this chart and what it is showing?
Yeah. So what you have here is what each one of these is its own timestamp that is 100% proof, because you have that not only where it came from, you have their identification, you have who they were attacking, their identification. This is what everybody would want. If you ever looked in and did an audit or wanted to look into a computer and look what went on in cyberspace, this is what you'd be looking for, correct?
This is forensic evidence of foreign footprints as they entered our election in a cyber warfare attack on our election. And then it shows exactly what they, where did they come from, which computer exactly the timestamp, exactly which computer they entered into, in what state, which county, the ID, the unique ID of the computer that they entered into, and then it shows how they entered using false credentials or breaking through the firewall or both.
Wow.
Were they successful the first time, the second time, and then it shows the votes that they stole from Donald Trump.
Right.
This is proof positive. This is documentation of a cyber attack, but it also is documentation of the footprints of those who entered our election.
Right. Right. And look at, if everybody notices here, everyone, you don't think this was all put together in one big attack? Everyone was Donald Trump down, down, down. This wasn't another country that wanted it the other way. This was the biggest attack in history. And Mary, we have pages and pages, right? Thousands of these pages of every county, right? Of every single attack.
There are thousands of pages of the documented footprints, the foreign intrusion into our elections. We see this is coming from China, in many cases from Huawei, from Alibaba
Right.
Cloud Service, from China Unicom, from uCloud, from China Mobile Titong. This also came from Iran as well.
Right.
But this is the foreign intrusion. This is the theft of our vote. But it also is documenting exactly the vote totals that were stolen from Donald Trump.
Right. And
we have heard.
Well, this is what I've been telling everyone. This is where you got, if you add these numbers up, when I said, and I actually told the president when I met with him, I said, you actually won this election by almost 80 million votes for you, for Donald Trump, to about 68 million for Biden. And that's not counting all the other kind of theft we talked about earlier in the show. These are the real numbers that were taken off and that were flipped. I mean, this is incredible, everybody. This is historical proof, too. We not only have, this is what we've all been waiting for. And Mary, you said there's a video, too, we want to show?
Yeah, this is a documentation, the proof positive, by cyber experts from in this country that began documenting the theft of our election.
Wow.
They put together the full documentation of every vote beginning on November 1st. So again, from before, during, and after the election, they documented the footprints of the foreign intrusion into our election. That means that foreign adversaries, really, because this was an act of war to come in and steal the election from the American people and decide who our foreign adversaries were going to put in the White House to rule or to be the president of this country.
Right.
Now, there's a video, and so that will show, and are you looking at the video, Mike?
Yeah, we're going to pull up the video here, Mary. Okay, here we go. We just pulled up the video. Wow, what's going on here with all these lines?
Well, the video, what you are watching is the surveillance system. In fact, this is the very surveillance system that was built by people inside this country within the cybersecurity battle space that built some of these tools that were built to keep this country safe. But what you're watching is that every line on that drawing, all those moving lines, they represent the IP addresses of what I just showed you on the chart. So when you understand the hacker's IP address and the IP address of the target and the votes that were stolen, every one of those lines that you're watching move across the chart and showing whether they were successful and how many votes they stole. That documents that. Every red line, as they turn red, as they finish stealing the vote, basically, the red lines are all China. So what you're seeing are the actual files being received and sent. That's a documentation of the real-time theft of our elections.
Wow.
So every line on the map, there's a corresponding line on the sheet. And the color and the line types represent the severity of the attack. Now, red has been the most severe attacks. Those lines are all coming out of China. those are the most severe attacks on our election system.
Wow.
Now, this exact information, the same exact type of information, I should say, was presented to FBI Director, former FBI Director James Comey, by a whistleblower in 2015. They knew, in fact, that our election machines were open for hacking. It's important to understand that there are prismatic scoring algorithms that they knew about that enter the election, and they steal the vote at the transfer points. So at the point where the vote is leaving the Secretary of State's office and these machines, that is the point at which the vote is stolen at the transfer points. That's what you're watching. Those packets moving is that's real-time documentation of the theft of the vote from inside this country. And then the numbers, the last column, those document exactly the numbers of votes. It shows, in some of the cases, Antrim County, where the vote was stolen, and exactly the vote stolen at the exact time stamp of when they were stolen,
right,
and the numbers stolen at that point.
So, Mary, so what you're saying now is, and this is what I already know, but I'm learning a lot here as we go. What you're saying, every one of these lines, let's say we did take Antrim County, and we took that, we could pull out the timestamps for that county, and we could show the lines, the country that did it. We could show a line for every single hack or attack that we had in this election.
That's right.
Wow.
So what you're watching is those objects moving are the actual files
right,
that are being received and sent.
These are the squares here that are being sent. So everybody out there, what you're looking at, I mean, this is the proof. So if like Antrim County, that case is still open, you just go, here you go. Now you know who did it, how many votes flipped, when they did it, what time they did it, the computer it came from, the country that attacked us. I mean, this is what I have been excited about, and I only seen one. Do you know, Mary, I only seen one little line of that which showed the IP address, that, all that stuff that you're showing us. When I found out that you had it for that we had it, that all these people had this, for every single vote, every single attack, and whether it was successful or not. Look at right now, we got up on the screen, Georgia is just getting attacked. It was just getting attacked up here at that moment in time. And I suppose, they know what they're doing. They did the biggest attack right here. Look at everybody. Georgia and Michigan getting bombarded. My guess is that was probably like 3 or 4 in the morning when they really needed them votes to be flipped. Mary, this is incredible.
Yes, because there is proof positive. There is documentation of all the foreign interference into our election showing exactly who stole the vote, how they stole the vote, from which computers, access to our election, to which computers they went into. So understand that cybersecurity experts that work for this country put all this in place before the election even started to make sure that they caught all of this information so that foreign adversaries were not deciding our elections.
Absolutely. And what a blessing that they were there for us to catch all this and to get all this put together, and even to have these, to be proactive. They were proactive, everybody. And what a blessing this is, because we came this close to never knowing. And this is actually a miracle that we have all this, Mary. And this is amazing.